Welcome to Oscar with your favorite host, Alex Doravo. And as always, let's get right to the nitty gritty, right down to business, because that's how we do things in this show. I want to talk about Project Hail Mary. That's right. I want to talk about Project Hail Mary. As you guys know, if you remember back a few months ago, I had the top 10 movies that I was really looking forward to in 2026. And this was on top of the top. This was number one for me. um, there's a lot of movies I'm excited for, but I really, really loved the book. I read it in 2025, just read it last year. So from reading the book to watching the movie was a pretty close thing, which was great because it was pretty fresh in my head still. And I was very excited. So because I really want to get into the movie, this is going to be spoilers. So if you have not watched the movie, please refrain from listening because I don't want to spoil the movies unless you're like certain people that I know that don't care about spoilers. And then do as you please, whatever you want to do, just do. So to get into it, I want to talk about, the movie. I also want to talk about the book. I want to talk about some of the differences that I think um, I liked the book just a little bit more than the movie. And that's not a hot take. There's a lot of, most of it's like, oh, the book is better. That's kind of the thing. But I think I want to mention something that was in the book, but was not in the movie that I think would have made the movie just a little bit better. And I think they could have done it. But, again, the director and screenwriter, they know more than I do. Maybe they really couldn't do it, but I kind of wish these aspects were into it. So if you're watching this, I assume you watched the movie. So I'm not going to recap or give a synopsis of what the movie is. Just read it on whatever, letterbox or whatever you want to do. But before I get into it, one thing I did find out. So when I heard about Project Hail Mary, the movie was coming out, I was really excited. And then I heard that the trailer came out and that they showed Rocky. I'm not gonna lie, I was very upset. Like to me, going into the book and just not all I knew about the book is that it was good. That's all I knew about the book. And because of traveling and working far distance, audiobooks is much better for me. So I could listen in the car and all that stuff. So I got the book, and first of all, Ray Porter is the one that narrated the book. Like he's the voice of the Audible, and he did a fantastic job. I mean, this book was one of the first time I really, really, really enjoyed an audio version of it. I was almost strictly like reading fiction, just the book, like the actual book, and I would just listen to nonfiction stuff on like audiobook. And it was hard for me and at first to get into fiction because if I'm working or doing something like on the ship when I was sailing and I was listening to something, it's like I had to focus on other stuff. And it's like if they're world building, I can't really get into it. It's harder. So, there's certain kind of fiction that's just much easier to digest while you're doing stuff. But anyways, so I didn't read a lot of audio. I didn't read a lot of fiction through audio, but I was like, okay, I wanted to get into it. And this book, I heard about it so much, and I was like, you know what, I really, really want to read it. I went ahead and read it, and what an experience that was. That was such a beautiful experience, such a great experience. Like the voice acting on there was incredible. So, anyways, back to when I was hearing about the trailer, they show Rocky. So I heard that they showed Rocky in like the first trailer, and I was very upset because again, I think I go into these things not knowing anything, and Rocky was such a great surprise for me in the book. Like when he came, it was like such a great surprise, and for me, it felt like you were kind of stealing that moment from the audience. Like for me, like I thought Rocky was such an essential like part to keep and to like surprise and to experience in the book, and I thought it would be much better to kind of enjoy that as well in the movie. But again, alas, trailers be trailing and be spoiling. I'm glad I don't watch trailers because that would have been very upsetting to me. All right, so here are five differences in the book, from the book and the movie that I think made the story a little bit better in the book And I think if some of this was actually in the movie, it would have made the movie better. First of all, I love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. 4.5 stars. Again, what I'm gonna get into is the reason it's not a five, but it's a strong 4.5. Like if I could do other, it would be like 4.8. You know what I mean? Like I absolutely love this movie. I think the acting is incredible. I think what Ryan Gosling did with the character was so great. Like he carries a movie. He can carry a movie, and he showed you in this movie. His delivery, his funniness, his comedic timing. It is great. And then after the movie, I went into like watching a lot of stuff. There's a lot of improvisation like that he did with Rocky, because Rocky is actually a puppet, like a physical puppet, like it's not CGI. There's some CGI aspects in the movie, but for the most part, they're actually human people like puppeteering Rocky, which was I thought was incredible. So there's a lot of like improvisation between Rocky and Ryan that I thought worked very well because it's a visual medium, and in a visual medium, there's so many things that you can do in a visual medium that you can't really do in a book that you can like grow. So for instance, if when you see Rocky and Grace, when you see them actually like grow and do things that are funny that is not necessarily the book, but it does translate to the same sentiment of bonding and like that character building that you love from the book, that you see their friendship grow. Their friendship grows as well in the movie, just a little bit different. It's more comedic. I think there's a lot of great lines. Like I forgot what the name is. I think Rocky hates Jeff, or I forgot what it is. Hilarious. It's not in the book, but the movie is funny. Like Ryan's character Grace, he's talking about this guy that he his ex is with now or whatever, and then he's like, "Oh, Rocky hates Jeff" or whatever. That's hilarious. So I think the reason I love the movie is because even though there are some differences, the essence was there. Like the whole relationship between Rocky and Grace and their friendship and their bond is there. The tension is there of him trying to figure out that trying to save the world, and like is he gonna be able to do it? Like not be able to do it. So I'm gonna give you. Let's go. Let's stop. I'm gonna go into it. So the first thing is coma resistant gene. So in the book they talk about not only you have to have the intelligence and the know it all and the wherewithal and like how to deal with the ship and what to do in space and what you got to do to help the world, but you have to have this rare gene that when you put in an induced coma, you won't die. Basically, you can survive this long trip because you have this rare gene in you. And I think in the book, what happens is when we're faced to that dilemma about the astronaut dying and Grace having to take their place, there's the number one element, obviously, of hey, I have to like we need to save the world. You know all about this. You know all about the astrophage, which in the book again, Grace named it. He's the one that named the astrophage. They did not put that in the book in the movie. If I at least if they did, I don't recall hearing that. And anyway, so he also has the knowledge, obviously, but he has that gene. So not only he has the tension of I gotta save the world, but also like, bro, there's only a few people that can actually do this. Like, there's only a very few people that can actually go by knowing what's happening and also having that rare gene, the condition, and he has both. So I think it's more like as a scientist and as a he had to come to grips with like not only like he's smart and he knows what's happening, because he could have been like, hey, there's a lot of smart people out there, they could figure it out too, but he had this gene that is a rare thing. So the book it puts him more into like more pressure, like, dude, you have to do this, like you can't not do this, you know what I mean, like you have to do this. So I think that could have added an element into the movie, so that's just one aspect that I thought they could have used. Number two, I said it already, but yeah, he's doing that name Astrophage. That was kind of cool in the book, but in the movie they didn't really let him shine in that area, so I don't know why. But anyway, moving on to number three. So number three, this one is I really was like In the movie, it was shorter and it doesn't hit you as hard as it did in the book. So Rocky's death. So yes, in the movie it does hit you hard still because it's like obviously like dude he's dead. This is horrible. In the book, not only is Rocky dead or he dying, right? And we hear Grace literally trying to save him. So in the movie, all you see is Grace wakes up, like Rocky saves Grace, and Grace wakes up, and then Grace sees like, like the Rocky's blood, which is soot, I think it's called, but it basically a trail of his blood, and then he looks, and Rocky basically saves himself. Rocky put himself in the place where he could just lay down and like heal. In the book, it was more intense because Grace is actually trying to save Rocky, and he's actually using tools and everything, and he's basically taking the soot out. Like the black thing is is losing it because of what he's trying to do. That he's actually killing Rocky because in the book afterwards, when he finally comes to when Rocky comes alive, he basically tells him that the soot, that black thing, is what heals him. So literally, Grace was killing Rocky. Like this was, and it felt so much longer. Like you felt the tensity, you felt the agony, you felt the grief, you felt like, dude, he Rocky's dead. Like Rocky is dead, and it was horrible. And I feel like Grace in the book was like more anxious, like, because he was literally trying to save Rocky and he was actually killing him. Thank God he doesn't. But I think if in the movie you saw that a little bit more, I think you could have, saw the connection. Like you could have saw him actually like grieving and feeling that grief. Like, dude, his partner's dead. His friend is dead. Like, I think that's one thing. In a little sidebar, in the book, Rocky, they're ashamed. They don't like people look. They don't like being seen when they're eating. Like because it's like disgusting is a very private thing that they do. And in the movie, it was almost the opposite. Like Grace wanted to see how Rocky eats, and he shows him. So that I don't know why that was changed. I know it's probably more for comedy because it was hilarious to see the way Rocky eats in the movie, but in the book, it's more of an embarrassment. Like they don't like that, So, that was another little difference. I don't know if that. I'm not saying that made the movie or not, but just a little bit of a different thing. That I don't know why. But I'm guessing the comedic because it is funny because it does look gross, and Grace's reaction is spot on. So number 4 is Strap. Okay, so in the book, you hate her. I hated her. Like she doing these things, forcing people, like making these crazy decisions, but ultimately it's for the greater good. Man, but you hate the way she does stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like more tension. There's like more tension with Grace and Strat in the book that you feel, and you're kind of like root for, like, I don't know, maybe rooting not the correct word, but I feel like I didn't like her. I didn't like her character, and in the movie they I'm not saying that it was like a romantic, but there was like an undertone of romanticness between Grace and Strat that I was not like really liking that much because I was like, you know what? That's not in the heart of the book. And I'm thinking in the movie why they did that is because maybe they feel like they have to have some kind of love interest in the movies. And because, that's just the way movies are. Maybe that's why they put that little spin on that. But in the book, you see Strat doing horrible things. Like, under her they blew up Antarctica, right? And under her you see her go to court, like fighting, like for that she what she's doing is the right thing. So I think she's more like kind of like tough too, and makes decisions that are hard, and that's why it's easy to like get mad at her, even though like ultimately it's for the good, and she is trying to help. But man, dude, she does some things in the book that you're like, I was so mad at her so many times. The way she talked to Grace. There's way more Earth time also in the book. So I think you get to see and feel that tension a little bit more in the book between Grace and Strat, and just like the everything that he's going through right now with the whole thing about like trying to actually, should I do this? You know, like there's even a part in the book that he goes back before he says yes to Project Hail Mary, that he goes to, you know, the classroom and the kids are talking about like, oh, I can't wait till I'm 30, I can't wait till the future, and that kind of gets him like, dude, if I want a future for them, if they have any kind of chance for the future, I do have to go. So there's that added element as well that's in there. But I just thought that, you know, Strat in the movie was much more likable. Um, the whole karaoke scene, that in the book, I thought it was a nice touch. I know some people that didn't like it as much, but I liked it. It humanized her. I get what they were going for, and you know they succeeded. But again, it was still a great movie. I still liked the character of Strat. Just it was just more like I would have liked it a little bit more of that tension, a little bit more of that. Like she's not a villain, but man, she's doing a lot of stuff that's kind of like gets you upset. You know what I mean? So yeah. All right. So, and the final thing that was different in the book versus the movie is the ending. So in the book, I if I recall, it's about 16 years in the future. So he's already older. So he's like in his 50s, early 50s, right? Um, and you could tell he like settled in, you know. And in the final conversation with Rocky, like all Rocky be, you know, like says it that they got like this thing, like the scientists were able to figure out that Earth's sun is brighter. So in the book, it's more like feeling like, hey, it worked, you know, like what he did, but also give you the sense of he just accepted where he's at. In the movie, I feel like the ending was like more of like, hey, um, at least it felt like this. Hey, hey, the scientists just figured out that the Earth's sun is much more brighter, and you know, like maybe we'll do a trip out there. You know what I mean? So this is what I think. I think the reason they did that is because there's a possible part two book that Andy Weir is gonna write. In the movie, I think they want to send Ryan. Ryan. I think they want to say Grace back. You know, and to like kind of see what's happening. Also, one of the things that were different, like in the end of the book, you don't get to see Earth again. It literally like all he knows about Earth is like the Earth's sun is brighter. Whereas in the movie, it kind of gives you like he saved them, right? Like you can see Strat older, you can see other people like there, like after the fact, like after, you know, the four, I don't know what they were called, but you know, oh, the astrophy, was it astrophy? The Amoebas, so the Beatles, you know, John, Paul, Ringo, and George, you know, when they get there. But anyways, but so I understand, like for the movie, I understand that they want to give you like more of a closure, more of a full closure. Um, and I get that. So one of the, I do want to name some of the few things that I do love about the movie, that more because of the obvious reason, which is the visuals. Like so, the visual is incredible. Like there's a scene, and everybody knows the scene I'm talking about, and it is stunning. It is a stunning, stunning scene. Beautifully cinematography, like beautifully lit, beautifully like screened, like beautifully videoed. I don't know, but it was beautiful. And some of the things that you could appreciate more is Rocky's, again, like I said, Rocky and Grace's relationship growing through the visual medium. Like them playing Simon Says was hilarious. Like, you know, watching that is funny. And then you seeing Rocky's like movements, like you appreciate certain things that are obviously in the book you can't. But also in the movie it is a little funnier because of Ryan Gosling, obviously. And I do appreciate that. That's why it's like, you know, Even if it's a little bit different, I absolutely love the movie. Like, it's an incredible movie. And but these things, just these things that I mentioned, I think elevated the book more. And I think they could have done some of this part, some of these things in the movie to make it a little bit, tiny bit better. But again, I love the movie 4.8. Like, beautiful, thumbs down. If you guys get the reference, you know what I mean. So 4.5 of these. But yeah, just I really enjoyed the movie. I really do think that if you love the movie, you should go and read the book. And if you do read the book, I recommend an audio. That is an incredible experience. That is the way to go. And if you have read the book, but you haven't watched the movie because you're like, I don't want to watch the movie. I don't want them to ruin it. Don't worry, they don't ruin it for you. There's elements in there that are very touching, very warm, comedic. Again, and visually stunning. It's such a beautiful movie to watch, and I think that even with those differences, this is a much watch. Like, this is an incredible movie, incredible achievement. Lord and Miller yet again knocking it out of the park. I mean, these guys are incredible, dude. Like, they got to jump on DC. I heard that they have a script of The Flash. James Gunn, are you listening? Go get Lord and Miller now. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Rebel out.